Hello, hello, welcome back. My name is Monique Josephine. I am a curious, contrary, critical thinker, and I wanted to try something new this week and kind of go through some of the news stories that interested me in the past 7 days. This is going back a little further than 7 days, but let's just give it a whirl and see how it goes. First, since we are on Hillbilly Elegy and all enamored by our VP 48 or JD Vance, whatever you want to call him, his speech in Munich was to die for. Was to die for. The way he called out the Western nations on being so hypocritical about the democratic values that we share, supposedly, while at the same time trying to start a fight with other countries because they don't have these same values. But it's like, if you're arresting people for praying in their own home, there's an issue. And JD's like, no, no, honey, we are not doing this, okay? If you want us to help you, if you want our support, first of all, bring your checkbook because you're going to need to put down some money on this. Second of all, let's get back to the values that actually unite our nations, because if we're arresting people for praying, then we have less in common than we think. And I don't think that's worth us putting on our suits for, putting on our military suits. So bring your checkbook and your people and the values that we share so that we can get on the same page. That's what I got. And I was so happy to hear him speak so frankly, so bluntly to these leaders. And they were all aghast. I think one guy was crying, which, give me a break, grow up. I cannot believe this fool's crying. Like, no wonder you guys look weak on the nation's stage. If any leader cries because of something someone says, like weeps about it, please, please. I mean, we've had enough of that, especially considering how embarrassing it was for Joe Biden to represent our country. I mean, every single person in the world, except for those delusional people, knew that this guy had nothing between his ears. And, you know, God bless his soul, but he couldn't put a sentence together or walk a straight line. So that was embarrassing enough. But thank you, JD, for going out there and representing exactly what we put you in office to represent. I mean, tastes so sweet. Thank you, JD. You are doing us well. Another one, Matt Taibbi was in a Senate hearing about censorship. And in his opening statement, I don't remember if it was in his opening statement or a response to a question, but he literally calls out John Kerry as one of the people in the Senate who were censoring and who have been participating in this huge censorship of the American people when we have questions about, what our healthcare industry is saying, when we have questions about political figures and stories that are not of the best representation. It's like, we want to know these things. And this whole calling out the Senate in Senate hearings, I will be the first in line. Like, yes, let me get behind this, because these senators are not all that they think they are. Okay, so big up to Matt Taibbi. He is a boss and one of the greatest journalists of our time who actually report the facts. He's probably more of like a independent liberal than a straight up left-wing Democrat kook. And I enjoy his reporting because he is honest and reporting the facts. I can't say so much for myself because I feel pretty strongly about my opinions. So I like to report an opinion. This fool brings the facts. And I love that type of reporting because I don't feel like I'm part of some kind of psyop or being played. Like, damn it, my oven's going off. Be right back. Anyways, like I said, I don't feel like I'm part of some big scenario or some kind of what is the word I'm thinking of? Plot. That I'm not like a puppet in a plot when I'm listening to his stuff. Like, for example, watching the PBS documentaries. I used to love watching those my entire life. Like, ever since a toddler with my dad, I would watch those PBS documentaries. And Frontline, I used to have such a good opinion of. And then they do all of these very one-sided, biased pieces about the right. And I'm like, I just can't, and it breaks my heart because what they represented in the past is so far from what they are now that their names have just lost all of the power. Like, the influence and respect that they used to have. Like, you remember the National Geographics? Like, if that wasn't the triple OG of facts, and now to know that that company, that brand is, it's just a puppet in a propaganda machine, which sounds like, let me get my tinfoil hat, but we all know it's true. Okay, so I'm not going to harp on that for much longer. Okay, and then Jaguar Wright. Okay, she is a musician from the 90s who was in with P. Diddy, with Bad Boy, with that scene of Diddy coming up. And she got the Defender of Freedom Award by Trump, which I am just so amazed at. Now, she is a little kooky, and some of her stuff that she says is so wild that you're just like, get out of here. This cannot be true. She's off her rocker. But, and I don't really believe all of them, and some of the sources are questionable. But after this, Candace Owen, Emmanuel Macron, Bridget Macron story, I remember feeling the same way about that announcement when Candace said that she was going to do a story and that she would bet her entire career that Bridget Macron was born a man. I was like, okay, she's lost it. And if the series that she did has proved anything, it's that we can't be too surprised about what's possible. So anyways, Jaguar Wright was awarded this because she has been revealing things about Diddy, about these parties, about perpetrators, and she's had a lot of crazy allegations, like I said, and I don't think that they've been able to prove them all, but I do think it was on the pulse of the culture to recognize her and give her that award because she has been feet to the pavement, just, anybody hear me? These people are dogs. Let me tell you. She's just been as loud as she possibly can about what's been going on in the industry. So I thought that was amazing. And yes, the Trump team have their fingers on the pulse of the culture, of the people. Okay. Alice Johnson. Okay. She was pardoned by Donald Trump in his last presidency. And you might remember her from, probably not, because most people who pay attention to Kim Kardashian do not pay attention to Trump and vice versa. But either way, Kim Kardashian did a big campaign about her. It's one of the first people that she was able to use what she has learned in law and her influence to help release from prison and get a pardon from Trump. She has been named as a pardon czar. So this I just think is incredible because someone who has been in prison, I think she was in prison for life for like a weed charge or something like that. And she's been already spent so much time in jail. But what I love about this, it's like you really do need someone from there. It's the same thing he's doing in all of these departments, like with Cash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard. He's putting aces in their places. Like, where can these people perform the best? Like, when you are working the drive through, you don't put your slowest guy on the window because he's going to slow everybody else down. So he's literally using his chess pieces exactly where they go to get the very best for us, for the people. So I absolutely love that he put Alice Johnson in that position to be the pardon czar so that she has the ability to recognize, compile, and put people who have been put in prison and should be reviewed. She has the power to do that. She has the power to have these people reviewed. And I love it. Just like I like Brian Stevenson, he does the Innocent Project. And there's a book called The Sun Does Shine. I believe that guy's name was Ray. And he helps by freeing people convicted of life in prison that their charges are not valid, and he helps free them. So I think that's a movement I can get totally behind because we do have a lot of people in prison that should have a second look, especially now that weed is legal almost across the country. And, if you did something wrong, you should definitely do the time. But I think with Trump seeing how the justice system can be weaponized against an individual and how these judges can be partial, how there are underlying incentives that may not be clear to the public. So I think putting emphasis on that is showing the good faith that Donald has and that he has put his money where his mouth is. So thank you. The Senate confirms Cash Patel. Ooh, they let the dog out. He is about to go crazy on these bureaucrats. I cannot wait. So something that he said that everybody is like, is he said on day one, he is going to go into the Hoover building, tell all of the FBI to hit the pavement, be on the road, do police work, and then the next day he will open that building as a museum of the deep state. And if that did not piss everybody off, I'm like, ah! Because it just feels so good for someone to say what they actually think. Like, we are all tired of hearing politicians speak from their rears, knowing that they are, practically wearing companies as a NASCAR driver who they actually represent. Like, they're not representing us. So to get some people in there that actually care about the people and who are willing to shake things up, who do not care what people think about them, ooh, I love it. Okay, and then, so moving on to my next subject, which I like this topic because Elon Musk, in all of the, influence that he has been able to conjure of the right, I like it, okay? We finally have some money on our side. We finally have some big influence on our side. If you look back, it's like, really, now is the time you want to say money and politics don't mix? Like, unfortunately, that's our system. Like, Right now, that's what we have. And unlike the left, at least we know who is giving counsel to the president about what he thinks. Like our presidents since the beginning of time have received counsel from counselors. Like they always have consultants. That has not changed. And he's doing it openly. So in that sense, like it's legit. It's passes the smell test. If you have been so concerned about unelected officials making decisions that no one elected them to do, you should have been really loud the last 4 years when we had a president completely incapacitated and definitely other people unelected making those decisions. Like we don't even know who the president was the last 4 years. Was it Jill? Was it Michelle? Was it Barack? Who was it? Like we don't even know who the president was the last 4 years. And now you're screaming at the top of your lungs, unelected official. No, honey, we did elect Trump and we are all falling in line behind his guidance. So yes, please, Elon, please go in there and pull the rug out from up under all of these fools. We're here for it. And if there are a few casualties, we're willing to risk that for the transparency and openness and putting the position of the government back into our hands. Okay. So you have my blessing. Also, so the part I didn't really care to cover is the new baby mama drama with Elon. Okay, but what interests me about this drama, so there is a right-wing influencer who has come out and announced that Elon is her baby daddy and that he needs to, take care of his kid. This is all allegedly because I'm going off the top of the dome, but he said that she reported that the press was going to release that Elon was the dad of her like 5-month-old baby. And so to avoid that, she released it herself. But it was a very lengthy press release. She had a photo op done in her $15,000 a month apartment that I guess Elon pays for. And I feel like it coming out right after Valentine's Day was a bit thirsty. It's like he's got 13 kids that we know of. I know you didn't think you were fixed to swoop in and be his number one lady. But I feel like all of that said, Megyn Kelly has reported on it similarly in that sense. And then Candace Owens, I love Candace Owens. I love Megyn Kelly, but I just like the contrast. And that's what I'm here to tell you about is Candace today was like, can you believe Megyn Kelly reporting on Elon in such a harsh way when she did a story about Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, with his mistress who Hunter Biden fathered a child outside of his marriage, his relationship, that none of his family even acknowledged, right? So this was like the hidden child of the Biden family. And Megyn Kelly represented that story in a completely different light and was like, what a shame, blah, blah, blah. Well, Candace Owens is like, okay, Megyn Kelly, where is that energy with Elon? Like, I understand that he's on our team, but we still have to call a spade a spade. So that kind of like internal calling each other out, just to be honest, I think it's interesting. While I see Candace's point, I also see Megyn Kelly's point to support Elon because honestly, is anybody questioning whether Elon is stepping up for his kid? I don't believe so. Like, he's, I think, worth $400 billion. I think he's going to be able to take care of his son. And I don't think that he is even denying his son, just because he hasn't done a full-on press release about it, he's obviously going to take care of his kid. And I don't think that that is in question at all either. So there's just a little contradiction in the conservative media that I find interesting. I love them both. I absolutely love the pop, like, cultural news Candace has been bringing. Like, she just announced today that she is releasing a new series about Jeffrey Epstein and Me Too, the whole Me Too movement and Jeffrey Epstein. And what she said today was like, pay attention to these reporters who have released the stories and originally broke the Jeffrey Epstein story. So I made a note about that. I'm going to do a little bit of digging and see what interesting things I can find about these reporters, because she kind of alluded to the fact that they are connected to, like, pay attention to their family bloodlines and the stories that they break. And yeah, she did a whole series about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, which was very interesting. She's still covering it. But yeah, besides that, today I have not paid much attention to the news. I know there is some news about Ukraine, and hopefully as early as the end of this week, we can bring an end to the war and massive deaths that are occurring for no reason. Not for no reason. I know people have very strong opinions, but we just want to end the violence and come to some kind of peaceful agreement. I know that what that looks like isn't ideal for any side, but we can also agree that Russia is enormous. And if you just put two and two together, you kind of can understand where this would go in a full-on arms war. And it's a shame to put a whole nation through that, when if you just understand numbers and ability and brute war capacity, it's like, without the US, it'd be a losing fight. And we ain't trying to put our marbles in that game. So, yes, these are my hot takes. Some hot, some not. But I just want to bring a little bit more about my opinion, some of the stories in the news, and also just challenge everybody to think critically for themselves. We all have people that we admire and listen to kind of religiously, but this isn't a theology, you know. Politics is not theology. Our, you know, our we should truly trust and believe in God, and everything else trust, but not trust. Everything else we should verify. And even coming from sources who we love and admire, we should always verify them, because we are in a situation today where we have all listened too much, not verified enough, and ended up in a place where now we need all of this radical change to regain the balance of our system. I'm grateful for the left and the right. I feel like it's our responsibility to disagree with each other without hating each other. And we also need the other side to hold us accountable. So for everyone that disagrees with me, I'm grateful for you. And I'm also grateful we live in a country where you can disagree with whoever you'd like. And I encourage you to disagree as much as you want and have those conversations, but leave the emotion out of it and just, appreciate our neighbors and each other here online. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe. We are reading Hillbilly Elegy right now, just for educational purposes, reviewing a little bit about that story. And in the next book club, we've got a juicy read. So stay tuned and take care of yourself. Bye.